Hello everybody, here we are today talking about 3 bad teams that have played good hockey as of late. So before we get into that, please make sure to subscribe if you're new to me or hockey, whatever the case may be. That being said, let's get on into it. So yes, I do apologize. This is a bit different than my normal setup, but my wife and dog are asleep in the bedroom, so I'm out here. But anyway, we're talking about teams lower in the standings that have been able to string together some W's. And the first team we're talking about here is the Arizona Coyotes. Now, Arizona unfortunately has been the laughingstock of the league for a long time, whether that be snobbish hockey fans or people that just don't think hockey belongs in the South. There's that. On top of that too, they've had multiple bad seasons and some bad management off the ice, as they can never seem to find a long-term stable home. And unfortunately, it looks like their time in the desert could be running out, as Scottsdale basically said they don't want them anymore because of some water issues, because there's like a land bid, and I'm pretty sure it's around there. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the fact that Arizona, at one point in the season, actually had some decent hopes of possibly being a wildcard team, as into late January, they had 49 points in 45 games played, which by their standards is pretty good, and I think by a lot of teams that is not too bad. And you got to understand, when teams are doing rebuilds, eventually you got to be able to climb out of it, and so things are looking promising, maybe be a second wildcard spot. And then they had a 14-game losing streak that just unraveled their season. You kind of understood after that point that their playoff contention was over. And I don't really think they got the memo as of late, as despite the fact that they were eliminated from playoff contention, they've won 7 of their past 11 games. 6 of those wins have come by 3 or more goals, and just been a really good run as of late. Unfortunately, it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. However, this is already their best season since the 2020-2021 campaign, and if they finish out really hard, it'd be the first time that they cracked 80 points in a season since the 2019 season. But I gotta be honest with you here, there were some shortened years where they would have definitely hit 80 points in that span. But still, if they're able to crack 80 points for this year with a 14-game losing streak, you'd have to feel pretty impressed here, and the Desert Dogs are closing out the year pretty well, and we're gonna see if that actually does finish strong. Next up, we have the Chicago Blackhawks, and Chicago is the first team in the NHL to get eliminated from playoff contention this year. It's not been an easy season. We're all aware of that. They have scored the fewest goals in the NHL, and they've actually scored at the lowest rate as well. So either way you look at it, if you look at rate or just total goals, they just haven't been able to score a lot of goals. They've allowed, a decent amount of goals, and they are a team that's been shut out 13 times this season, according to StatsMuse. So not a whole lot to be excited about there. However, one thing to note as of late is they've been able to turn it on. They've won 8 of their past 15 games. They're 5-5 over their past 10, and are a team that's been able to beat up on bottom contending teams, or just bottom feeders, I guess, if you want to say that. They have beat the San Jose Sharks, the Columbus Blue Jackets, and the Anaheim Ducks, and they beat the Sharks twice on that occasion. Not something that you're probably super excited about if you're a Chicago fan that's looking to have better odds of getting the first overall pick. But I guess if you're saying, well, before this we had won 15 games in the span of about 60 games, that's about 1 in every 4 games, whereas now over the past 15 games we've been able to win about 1 every 2 games. It's something to be happy about with the younger team that is really looking to try to get back into the swing of things. I gotta be honest, obviously, with the way things are looking in the Central Division at the moment, with Dallas, with Colorado in the near future, even if they're really feeling aggressive over the next couple of seasons, it's going to be hard to imagine them being in a top 3 spot in the division. And this looks to be possibly one of the worst Hawk seasons in multiple decades. I think the 2003-04 season didn't treat them very well, but if they finish it out strong, it could be better than multiple other seasons. But these type of seasons that have been this bad haven't been super common, and I think the last time that something truly bad happened like this was sometime in the mid-50s. Again, though, that 2003-04 season was kind of rough, but I'm kind of wondering if they'll be able to get past that. Regardless, so Chicago finding ways to win, and we'll see if, like Arizona, they can finish out the year hot. And then the final team is the Ottawa Senators. Now, there's probably other teams that could be on this list, but Ottawa last year ended up having an 86-point season, and they were not thrown into the category of teams like Chicago and Arizona this year. I think the expectations were much higher. I was kind of shy on them this year. I picked them, I believe, 5th or 6th in the division. They are not having a season that is even kind of mirroring that. There have been points where they've been bottom in the Eastern Conference. They've had poor defensive play, poor goaltending, poor just special teams. All around, there's been a lot of areas that have been rough. They ended up firing DJ Smith after 26 games. They were 11-15 at that point, and they are a side that from early on it didn't look like they were really going to make the playoffs, which is really frustrating because things are really going to be looking curious to see how they deal with the roster in the offseason. As next season, after that's done, they have multiple guys that are important that are off the books. But as of late, just like all these other teams, they've been able to pick up wins. They had a recent 5-game win streak and have been able to pick up 9 wins over their past 15 games, which is kind of interesting because I'm sure for a lot of Ottawa fans, it just feels very frustrating knowing that this is a team that's been able to have a decent season for the first time in a minute last year and then be able to play good hockey, or at least be able to pick up wins over their past 15 games, which is at about a 98-point pace. If I did my math correctly, if you played a 98-point pace out east, you're making the playoffs as a wildcard team. And I gotta be honest here with Ottawa, it just feels very frustrating knowing that they could be a team that maybe makes the playoffs. They go out and sign some players and they continue to underperform. I gotta be honest here, I don't know if Korpisalo is going to be able to help them because he needs a strong defensive team, something that Ottawa over the course of this season has not been. But with this recent 15-game stretch, you have to wonder if they'll finish out the year strongly like these other teams. They are going to be finishing higher in the standings, probably, well, definitely from Chicago, but possibly even Arizona. I don't know if they can officially get to the 80-point mark. I can't remember looking at what I saw, but I still got to be honest, looking at this past 15 games, 4 of their wins have come after regulation, which is a bit concerning to me. And looking at this side, it's just very tough to see where they're going to be going in the future. And even with this recent win streak, I don't even know if Ottawa fans would be super thrilled about how things have gone for them, because they went from having the 5th overall pick before all these wins have started to pile up to the 7th. I know that's only 2 picks, but at the end of the day, if that impedes you from getting a guy you want, or possibly being able to get a call during draft day before and just say, hey, this is what we're interested in, would you be interested in trading down? It's out there. So this team has pieces like Kachuk, they have pieces like Stützle, and just multiple young guys you're excited about, but kind of like what I said with Chicago, except a few years older. The Atlantic looks really good. You have the Bruins that continue to overperform, even though they lose pieces, they just are fine. You have the Florida Panthers, which have been one of the better teams over the past 3 years. You have the Toronto Maple Leafs that are probably always going to be in the top 3 of that division, at least with what they've got going on at the minute. Tampa Bay is still good enough to be a wildcard team. I have no idea what the new ownership and all that is going to be doing in Ottawa. But yeah, they could finish out the year hot, even though it means nothing like these other teams. So yes, that is all for this video today. Just talking about some sides that have been able to turn things around, even though it really doesn't mean anything for them. Chicago, out of all this, it's probably more okay because they're still going to be a bottom 4 side that secure a top 4 pick. And who knows, maybe they go out there and they're rewarded for their recent wins and are getting a second straight first overall pick. Ottawa, not exactly sure what's going to happen here because a lot of their guys have already come up and they're still not able to crack into the playoffs. Arizona, there's just a whole other thing to talk about there. So we're going to be talking about 2 or 3 teams, tomorrow that are good teams that have been playing poorly. So if you enjoyed this video, come on over to tomorrow's video and enjoy that. So everybody, please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Everybody stay safe. Have a great night. And Eagle of Hockey already.
Goodbye, Brigadiers and Brigadettes. This is your captain signing off. Have a great night.